watching the English newscast on Future Television. I'm Yumna Nopal, and these are today's top stories. Maronite Patriarch Shadadai visits Mount Lebanon, where he marks the 15th anniversary of the mountain reconciliation between the Christians and the Druze. Rebels capture strategic military positions on the edges of Syria's Aleppo, turning the tables on Russian-backed regime forces. And to the beat of samba, Brazil welcomes the world to the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro, and the Lebanese delegation gets ready to compete. Maronite Patriarch Shadadai visits Mount Lebanon, where he marked the 15th anniversary of the mountain reconciliation between the Christians and the Druze, as well as inaugurate a church in the Shuf town of Al-Mukhtara. Progressive Socialist Party leader MP Walid Jumblat and Lebanese Democratic Party leader Talal Arslan received the patriarch in the presence of former President Amin Jmayel, Michel Sleiman, former Minister Walid Daoud, representing former PM Najib Miati, as well as Papal Ambassador to Lebanon Gabriel Kasha. Army Commander General Jean Ahwaji was also there, and a number of bishops and priests, where Rai headed a mass at the El Saidi Church in Mukhtara and marked the anniversary. Rebels captured strategic military positions on the edges of Syria's second city of Aleppo, turning the tables on Russian-backed regime forces besieging the city. To the northeast, a Western-backed alliance of Arab and Kurdish fighters scored a major victory against the Islamic State group in the town of Manbij after a fierce two-month battle. The developments have rocked the key northern province of Aleppo, a microcosm of Syria's topsy-turvy multi-front war that has killed now more than 280,000 people. Rebel and regime forces have fought for control of the provincial capital of the same name since mid-2012, transforming the former economic powerhouse into a divided, bombed-out city. Opposition fighters and allied jihadists captured fresh territory south of Aleppo in a bid to cut off regime forces and open up a new route into besieged rebel-held districts. Iran state television is reporting that the Iranian foreign ministry has reacted angrily to the UN criticism of the country's execution of 20 Kurdish militants earlier this month. The report on Iran's state website quotes foreign ministry spokesman Bahram Ghassami as accusing the West of meddling in internal Iranian affairs. Ghassami says while Iran is itself victim of terrorism, it will do its best to maintain the safety of its citizens. His comments follow a Friday statement from the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Zaid Ra'ad al-Hussein, criticizing Iran for the executions. Ghassami says that the judiciary had found that 20 men guilty of several charges, including attempting to establish a militant group, making explosive and planting bombs in Iranian cities. Coming up next, a special one-on-one with Ambassador to Spain of Lebanon. This is Hernando speaking about the latest developments. Stay with us. Welcome back. U.S. President Barack Obama praised Team USA as the athletes started competing in Summer Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro. The United States is expected to top the medal table at the end of the Games and somewhere along the way claim a milestone, 1,000 gold.
Every 4 years, our nation's attention turns to a competition that's as heated as it is historic. People pack arenas and wave flags. Journalists judge every move and overanalyze every misstep. Sometimes we're let down, but more often we're lifted up. And just when we think we've seen it all, we see something happen in a race that we've never seen before. I'm talking, of course, about the Summer Olympics. This month, Rio is hosting the first ever games held in South America, and we're ready to root on Team USA. We're excited to see who will inspire us this time, whose speed will remind us of Jesse Owens, whose feats will remind us of Bob Beeman's amazing jump, which young American will leave us awestruck, the way a teenager named Carrie Strug did when she stuck that landing, and when another kid named Cassius Clay gave the world its first glimpse of greatness. Who will match Mary Lou Retton's perfection, or pull off an upset like Rulon Gardner's, or dominate like Dream Team? That's why we watch. And we have a lot to look forward to this year. Team USA reminds the world why America always sets the gold standard. We're a nation of immigrants that find strength in our diversity and unity in our national pride. Our athletes hail from 46 states, D.C., and the Virgin Islands. Our team boasts the most women who have ever competed for any nation at any Olympic Games. It includes active duty members of our military and our veterans. We've got basketball players who stand nearly 7 feet tall and a gymnast who's 4'8".
Brazil unfurled a vast canvas celebrating its rainforest and the creative energy of its wildly diverse population and welcoming the world to the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro, all to the pounding beat of samba, bossa nova, and funk. Brazil's interim president, Michel Temer, declared open the first games ever in South America, but in a display of the deep political divisions plaguing Brazil, he was jeered by some in the crowd at the famed Maracanã soccer stadium. The opening ceremony was decidedly simple and low-tech, a reflection of Brazil's tough economic times. There was also a significant Lebanese delegation at the Olympics, competing in table tennis, shooting, canoe, slalom, swimming, and judo, as well as many other events. Earlier this week, I had the pleasure to sit down with the Spanish ambassador to Lebanon, Mrs. Milagros Hernando Echevarria, to discuss the deadlocks both in Lebanon and Spain, as well as the separatist movement in Catalonia, an interesting issue after Brexit surfaced. Here is part one of the interview. Welcome today, the Spanish ambassador to Lebanon, Mrs. Milagros Hernando Echevarria. Prior to being here, Mrs. Ambassador served as the Director of International and Security Policies at the Cabinet of the Prime Minister of Spain. Welcome, Mrs. Ambassador. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
When you arrived in 2012, which was 4 years ago, Lebanon was, and still is in many ways, undergoing a period of difficulty with a growing political instability. But ironically now, Spain's political parties have yet to agree on forming a coalition. Yes. And there has been a deadlock for 7 months now. We've had a political deadlock in Lebanon as well for over 2 years. So what do you make of these two countries?
Well, it's true. I mean, sometimes you Lebanese people, you tell me, but what are you doing? You are following the Lebanese example. Well, let's say I try to explain.
You must get that a lot. It's the same thing.
No,
right?
let's say try to explain. In the case of Lebanon, it's the presidency of the country. In the case of Spain, as you know, it's our king, and the king is there. Let's say the presidency of the country is always with him. What for us is just on the way is the prime minister. But the difference, because your constitution is different from ours, of course, is that our government is on functions. Let's say you don't have a president on functions. We have a prime minister and a government on functions. Okay. The only thing is that they are able to do some things, and they are able just to a certain line, and other things they are not able to do. But you don't have a vacuum in institutions. But of course, we are waiting for the agreement for the prime minister. I hope, and I think this is the hope of all the Spanish society, that by mid-August, by the end of August, and this is what the king told them too, that the Spanish society needs a new government, and to have a new government we have to agree on the new prime minister. All of us, we are waiting by the end of this month. Are you optimistic about? Sure.
So before the end of the year?
Before the end of this month.
That's more positive than Lebanon.
Well, I'm waiting for Lebanon president too.
We've been waiting for over 2 years now.
Yes, but still, every morning I wait today.
I wanted to ask about, Spain, because one of the major points of dispute is the separatist movement in Catalonia. Mm-hmm. And on Monday, Spain's constitutional court blocked the region's plan for independence approved by Catalan lawmakers. Now, this is interesting because after Brexit, it almost feels like this could become a trend in Europe. The Catalonians have always felt that they're different from the rest of Spain. Do you think this is a trend that we're seeing?
Well,
the separation?
Some comments. First, my first comment. It's true that when you are in crisis time, and it's true that Europe was a terrible economic crisis after 2008, and an economic crisis that was not provoked in Europe, but with a lot of consequences for Europe.
Right.
Societies begin to be frightened. When societies begin to be frightened, they can do well, they can solve or try to solve their problems in this way. On the other hand, at the same time of this economic crisis in Europe that was very important, and for Spain too, you have this situation with a lot of immigration from other areas of the world. And when you are in a wonderful economic situation, you are not frightened about immigrants or something like this, because fine, I mean, you have people. Brexit is just one country. In the case of Catalonia, is one area of the country. It's not the first time in Spain that we have areas or regions that they think it's much better just to be outside. For example, I am from the Basque Country, as you know. Okay. Let's say that all my life I was just living with this idea that some thought that it was better just to be independent from Spain.
Is it better to be independent from Spain?
I don't think so, of course. And that's why I think that the solution for Catalonia will be to have a dialogue about the way this majority of the Catalonian society, they want to stay in Spain. I think this will be the next step. And the next step will be to begin a dialogue in which you think, well, this is the way the majority of Catalonia society wants to be in Spain.
When we come back to Lebanon, I know there have been, during your mandate, some difficult periods. Notably in January of 2015, soldier Francisco Javier Soria Toledo, who had been serving in the UN interim forces known as UNIFIL, was killed by an Israeli shell that hit his post near the Hajar village in the Israeli army's response to Hezbollah. There are 558 Spanish troops serving in the south, maybe a little bit more. How do you face those who serve after such an incident? What do you tell them?
Well, it was, of course, the first thing that you feel is that you are very sad, because I mean, I am there every 3 weeks. I know, I mean, know by name all of them, but I am there, and well, you see that there are young people thinking that they are working for the peace in another country, and when something is happening like this, well, it's just the first thing you have is that, like, well, poor family, poor colleagues. And it was really very sad. I have to confess that I was crying there, crying at the airport, because, well, it's the only thing you are able to do. But in my words to them, what I told them is that the Spanish society is engaged with the peace in Lebanon. We think that one day countries will have dialogue, yes, to solve the problems and not not fighting. And it's for this that we are here, and we believe in peace, and we are going to stay here. And in the words that I have to tell them, almost just crying, the idea that we have to be very proud about this group of soldiers that live in their countries. They work here for 6 months, thinking that this is the engagement of another society working here for the peace.
This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our headlines. Maronite Patriarch Bashar al-Ra'i visits Mount Lebanon, where he marks the 15th anniversary of the mountain reconciliation between the Christians and the Druze. Rebels capture strategic military positions on the edges of Syria's Aleppo, turning the tables on Russian-backed regime forces besieging the city. And to the beat of samba, Brazil welcomes the world to the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro, and the Lebanese delegation gets ready to compete. Those are your Saturday headlines live on Future Television. I'm Yumna Naufal, wishing you all a great weekend. Have a good one.